Dave, right?
Hey, everybody, it's Dave here and Darren over there. Welcome back to another episode of Two Old Bloggers with Darren and Dave. In today's episode, we have some exciting themes to discuss. First up, we dive into the topic of play action and how it has impacted the Vikings offense, or how it hasn't. We'll analyze those struggles that the team faces without Justin Jefferson and explore possible solutions. Next, we shift all our attention to some quick hitters. We are highlighting two standout players on the Vikings defense. Jordan Hicks has been making a significant impact and was named NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Congratulations to him. We'll delve into his impressive performance this season. Another player caught everybody's attention, and that was Josh Metellus, who has been excelling in Brian Flores' aggressive defense. I love aggression. We'll discuss his versatility and the value he brings to the team. Also, we're going to go along with another O-line update because we have one this week. Well, lastly, we'll finish it all up with a preview of the upcoming your Minnesota Vikings hosting the San Francisco 49ers game on Monday night. Despite facing a formidable opponent, and the Niners are, we'll explore the strategies and key factors that could potentially lead to an upset victory for your Vikings. We'll also touch on the importance of monitoring the injury report, as the availability of key players like Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, and Dre Greenlaw could impact the game. It's time to let's get this started on Two Old Bloggers now. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. Hey everybody, it's Dave here and Darren over there. How are things in the great white north there, Darren?
They're good, Dave. Getting a little bit chillier now, and no complaints from me after the summer and fires from hell. So things are good. Things are good here.
Hey, we had a couple days in the 90s, but we're going back down, which is wonderful. Going to get some rain this week, which is always a good thing here. I want to thank everybody who's joined us. We got David Rinaldi, good Italian name. Travis Floyd, my worthless opinion. Good to see you. Purple and gold for days, Mr. Justin Day. And if you haven't listened, after the show, go to Vikings First and SKOL podcast stream and listen to his podcast only offering that went live this morning. Remember, Justin Day is part of us. We have Mr. Bob Swede. Michael Harrington is also here. Welcome, one and all, to this great, wonderful show. And there's my good friend, Norsefius. Glad to see you, buddy. And there's Anthony. Now, before we get started, I want to do a slight apology. I'm light on the graphics today, lighter than usual. I have graphics, but they're lighter than usual. And that's because the news in the world tends to fire up memories of mine, and the only way I deal with it is creating art. And I was creating art this week because the whole shit sandwich that's happening has me a little bit fired up, and hey, it happens. And any military guys out there that have experienced combat been in combat situations, know the drill. And if you need a friend to talk to, you know where to find me. Please do. With that, we're going to start this show. Hey, Davy Chains is back. Everybody's saying hi. Purple Haze joining us. This is outstanding. All right, we always start with theme 1. You named it Play Action.
Did I?
You did.
Oh, well, want to get into, I think this is the theme du jour. If you're a Vikings fan, Vikings blogger this week is the Vikings offense. Talked last week about how it was going to look post Justin Jefferson. We got our first look against the Bears Sunday, and it was not very good. Not very good at all. Everybody here knows it, but I'll rattle it off anyway. Offense scored 12 points in total, 220 total yards, 2 out of 15 on third downs, which is horrible, no matter if you've got Pee Wee Pop Warner players in there. The second half, when we really need to lay the hammer down, when we actually had, like at that point, a 19-6 lead, I think, or something like that. Second half, 4 of our 6 drives were 3 and outs. And the other 2 were only 6 plays each total. That's pathetic. And 46 running game, struggled again, 46 yards, 22 carries, so 2.1 yards per catch. So pretty disappointing overall, especially when you were going up against a Bears defense that was at 30th in points given up, 29th in yards allowed. They were getting back some of their veteran secondary guys, but still really disappointing output for the Vikings. And it doesn't take a whole lot of imagination, Dave, to think that if the Vikings could only get 12 points against a terrible Bears defense, what are they going to do when they face the 49ers, who are giving up 14.5 points per game? Like, it's pretty scary to think about what's going to go on. So,
well, Bob says, Kirk in prime time, what could go wrong? And I've pictured this piece was done from the Eagles game, which was in prime time. And we know what can go wrong. Yes.
We do. But I think, of course, Justin Jefferson not being there, at least for 4 games and maybe longer, any offense that's losing its best offensive player is going to be impacted by that. So you got to find a way to deal with it. And the hope was, at least for me, and we talked a bit about it last week, was that the whole thing where O'Connell's talking about, we got to reinvent ourselves as an offense. Well, my hope was that, okay, Jefferson isn't there, so we're not going to focus and try to get the ball so much to one guy, even though that works a lot of times. What I was hoping would happen was that we'd be more multi-dimensional, multifaceted, whatever word you want to use. We'd sprinkle in a little bit of KJ Osborne here, a little bit of TJ Hawkinson there, a little bit of Jordan Addison here, and everybody would pitch in, and the Vikings offense would be greater than the sum of its parts and still be productive. That did not go well against the Bears again, and that's concerning. So I think we know what the disease is. The question is, like, what's the cure, right? I think right now, if you're looking for, I think, big Dave, and disagree with me all you want, if you're looking for big schematic changes or change of offensive philosophy or a totally different offensive system, I don't think that's realistic with only 11 games left in the season. The Vikings have been drilling for all off-season training camp and through 6 games to have an offense a certain way. Kevin O'Connell has a certain offensive system and philosophy, so that's not really going to change. So so really, like, the cure, as simple as it is like, at a basic level, the Vikings basically have to, every guy, from whether it's Brian O'Neill to Garrett Bradbury to Kirk Cousins to Jordan Addison to TJ Hawkinson, they've all got to, everybody collectively has to play better than they've been playing and do that more consistently than they have, play after play after play. If you don't have that, and that's one way that they one of the main ways they're going to have to improve. I think if you're looking at again, like personnel decisions. Go ahead, Dave. It looks like you want to say something. I don't know.
It's called common sense.
Yeah. Which
But
isn't so
anyways,
common these days.
yes. Don't get too fancy. Don't outthink yourself. Just execute and play sound football with the talents you have remaining.
And that has been lacking in the first 6 games for sure. Whether you look at all the like the of course the turnovers, the drops, we lead the league in drop passes. Those things, especially when you're missing your top offensive player, for those things really hurt and really add up. But I think as far as the Vikings personnel wise, there's not a whole lot really that Kevin O'Connell can do. I think overall with what we got, there's a few things that he can do. One of them is nothing new for everybody. Is that okay? Alexander Mattison. Here's a guy that 2 weeks ago we talked about how I wasn't ready to give up on the Vikings running game and Mattison because I thought that the offensive line was at fault. They weren't opening up enough holes for him, and then he had just had the Vikings the Vikings running game and Mattison had 2 strong games in a row, which was encouraging. But I said I wanted to hold off, and I didn't want to anoint the running game as fixed. I wanted to see what they would do beyond that. Well, since the Carolina game, they've had the Chiefs where the running game wasn't that great, and then last week where they really struggled. So, and then Madison's also leading the team in drop passes. 5 out of, I think he's dropping like 19% of the targets going his way. So you got to look at, is it time to make a change at running back and switch out Mattison as your number 1 guy for somebody else? Well, the one guy on the Vikings roster right now who is a more explosive runner than Mattison, and unlike Ty Chandler, who doesn't seem to be getting a chance at all, unlike Ty Chandler, has a little bit of a track record of being successful in the NFL, is Cam Akers. So I think the time is now to switch it out. You go from Mattison getting the bulk of the carries to Cam Akers getting the bulk of the carries. Maybe it doesn't work, but Cam Akers has a different running style than Alexander Mattison. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and his lone carry against the Bears, I think, kind of showed that. I don't know if people remember the play. I looked it over a couple of times. But
2 snaps.
He had 2 touches, right? He got a screen pass, and he took that for 8 yards or 7 yards, and then he had a running play for 8 yards. The running play was he got the ball, the blocking was left, he went left, wasn't a whole lot there, but you could kind of see the running style he has and how it's different than Mattison, how it can be more effective than Mattison in some ways, because on that play, there wasn't much there. He did kind of a quick jump cut with his left, went right, avoided a would-be tackler there. Then he scoots, goes forward again. Then he stuck us again, more traffic, not a whole lot of room. Then this little seam opened up, and Akers saw it, and then he stuck his foot in the ground, his right foot in the ground, cut to his left. Then he kind of made his body a little bit smaller. He kind of went a bit sideways, got through the seam, then went forward, and he gets 8 yards. Well, that is a run that I don't think Alexander Mattison would ever make, because he wouldn't be able to see that seam, and he'd just be like, I'm going left. I'm hitting that hole. Boom. And whatever's there is there. And a lot of times it's not. So tunnel vision. So I think that Akers gives you a different running style. He's more a little bit. That run was very patient. It showed great vision. It showed an ability to move laterally and quickly. And those are kind of things that I think Mattison lacks the more we watch him. And so it's a little thing. Maybe it's not going to work, but I think Kevin O'Connell, I know that you believe in Mattison. Maybe you feel it's not his fault. O'Connell was talking about after the game how he felt there weren't a lot of holes for Alexander Mattison to run in. And we do know that there was some stat that said that the Vikings faced 8 in the box against the Bears. I think 36% of offensive snaps, which is double what it had been when Justin Jefferson was in the lineup. That isn't going to change. So you need a running back who can, and if Madison can't deal with that kind of 8 in the boxes and be productive, then you got to try somebody who is. Cam Akers is that guy. And so I think that the time is now against San Francisco, who's got a hell of a great defense, to switch it up. And that may give you a little bit of a spark, might make the running game a little bit more effective, and that will help the Vikings offense a little bit. So I think that's one personnel move that they can make with somebody that's already on the roster, who's probably better than the guy that's ahead of them right now, that they can do now, and I think they should do. The other thing is that, and this is the title of it, the play action. Well, in the Bears game, the Vikings ran play action 8 times by my count on 31 passes. Doesn't seem like a lot. I think it's 26%. I didn't get a chance to look at the Vikings, how much they used play action in the previous 5 games, so I don't know if that's average, above average, below average. But what I did notice from those 8 play actions is that some of our most effective passes and gains in that game came out of play action. The first play of the game was off a play action, 15-yarder to Madison or to Addison up the middle. On the second drive, they hit KJ Osborne with a 21-yard gain. That was off a play action. The pass that Addison dropped a couple of targets drives later, that would have been a 33-yard gain, by far the longest play of the game for the Vikings offense. That would have been a 33-yard gain by Addison. He dropped it, but that was off of play action. And we had 2 screen passes that were off play action that went for 7 yards each from Akers and Madison. So we've heard before, or I have anyway, I've seen stuff that said Kirk Cousins is a very effective play action passer. And we've read stuff before about how you don't even need an effective running game to do play action and for it to be effective. So even if Madison or Akers aren't getting it done with the running game, we can still run play action. So I think that's another thing in the future. You don't want to overuse something, Dave, but I think that the play action could be and should be utilized a bit more, especially without Justin Jefferson. Again, just get those linebackers froze on, and the second level guys froze and not being assertive in how they react to something because they think, oh, maybe it's a run. Then throw over that or under that. We need to do that a little bit more, I think, and see if that takes the offense and makes it a bit more effective, and we get better, more effective pass plays, more explosive pass plays, and gains out of those 2 things. Those are a couple of things.
Drives, no going for 5 3-and-outs in the second half.
Yes. And again, if your running game is a little bit more effective and you're using play action to get more
connecting on passes, people aren't dropping the football. Mm-hmm.
And this week, the other thing that I didn't talk to you about, Dave, but I have been thinking about it, is just the other thing that the Vikings could do is, of course, what they did last year when it was trade for TJ Hawkinson. And if you think that Justin Jefferson is going to be out for longer than 4 weeks, maybe you look at acquiring an offensive player that you think could help you in that situation. And we're hearing that there aren't a lot of obvious targets out there. We are hearing that the Broncos might want to unload Jerry Jeudy. He's a guy, same age, that maybe we don't know if the Vikings, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, or Kevin O'Connell, if they believe that if they're going to be sellers or buyers at the trade deadline, or if they're just not going to do anything at all. And I think a lot of that's going to depend on what happens Monday night against the 49ers and the following week against the Packers. But that's the other thing too. You bring in somebody else that the team's trading that you can add a bit of juice to your offense. And Jeudy is one of those guys, hasn't been a super duper star at the NFL level, but his numbers have been pretty good at times. And in the right environment, maybe they could be a lot better. But so those are some things that the Vikings could and should do. And I think like this week, I was listening to a few podcasts where they talked about the Vikings offense and what the problems are. And kind of the common theme has been that it's not just one thing. Yeah, the turnovers are killing us. the drop passes are hurting it, but it's a lot of things happening play after play with different players at different times that is hurting us. It's an ill-time penalty. It's a block that's gets missed. It's a like an Addison catching a screen that's set up for a big game, but he stops running to the pass, loses his momentum, and that allows the tacklers to kind of catch up to him. So it's a lot of lack of execution by various Viking offensive players that is holding this offense back. And that goes back to the first point about each player has to play better, more consistently, play to play than they have been, and to get this offense a little bit better, because you're not going to replace Justin Jefferson. So what, how do you keep the offense afloat and running well and running effectively? Well, everybody else has got to step up their play and play better than they have been. And so far that has not happened.
Right, because we don't have that eraser that JJ
No.
can be, that erases somebody who's not at the top of their form on a particular play. We need everybody now to be on that top of the form to make up for that missing piece. And they're going to have to do it. And it's going to be a hard challenge. Everybody's chiming in that nobody thinks they should trade for Judy. I don't think we'll talk about if the Vikings are buyers here in the next 2 weeks. We'll talk about that a lot. Most people tend to think that they won't be buyers. They may be on the other end and sellers. And as I warned over on Justin's show during the week, warning to everybody, don't be surprised if the Vikings do nothing at all or anything that you expect nor want. That would be typical of your Minnesota Vikings. So don't get your hopes up either way, because who knows what's going to happen and how they feel, because you have a dynamic going on between Coach O'Connell, who wants to win without a doubt, and then Kwesi, who wants to build the team of his future, and then the Wilfs, who are putting restrictions on everything and how they like to run the business. So who knows what happens here in 2 weeks. These next 2 games will decidedly tell us more in the future. But the first one is they've got to get over these 49ers, even though it's going to be probably the toughest game they've played all season.
To me, it's the toughest they've played so far. Might be the toughest they'll play all year. But Grandizer said below that he lost where I was going with this. I don't know. Maybe I did lose it, but I thought I was as clear as I could be. Just popping out a few things we can do to potentially, shake things up on the offense.
And get better, because the defense is improving steadily, and we'll get to that.
It is. Yep, it is. But I think that the things that they can do to improve the offense without Justin Jefferson in there are pretty limited, based on the personnel. And I almost kind of threw in Jalen Naylor in there, like maybe you could move him instead of. But I feel like he's kind of been like my white whale this year, where I'm overvaluing what he might do because I was hearing good things and I saw good things out of him in the last 2 games, the last 2 regular season games last year, that I think I'm definitely overselling the impact he could have if he got in the lineup. But at least he's been activated now and he's been practicing even on a limited basis.
He's in his 3-week window.
Mm-hmm. It was one of those ones where, put Naylor in there instead of Brandon Powell, and maybe again you get that little bit of an extra improvement on another player who's playing major snaps, and again that helps the offense a little bit. And if every player ups their game a bit, or you replace guys who aren't performing with guys who are a little bit better, that helps the offense a little bit, makes it play better, execute better. Should lead to more first downs. More first downs lead to more points. More points lead to more wins.
Yep. And that works every single time.
12 points ain't going to get it done.
Nope. And there's another option I heard, which makes sense, but it's not going to happen. Miami's built on speed, right? That's how they want track meets. They want speed. Our speedsters are Ty Chandler, Kene Nwangu, who comes back this week, and Jalen Naylor. To speak of it, Justin Jefferson is also not slow. He's quite fast. But you're not going to see, most likely, Ty Chandler or Kene Nwangu in the backfield. So, because they have deficiencies elsewhere. But it would be sort of cool if the Vikings cranked up their speed a bit and see what happens. But I don't think we're there this week, and I don't think that's going to happen. Dan says use more 2 tight end sets. I think Oliver has been a good weapon. I think Oliver's played well. He's an exceptional blocker. And yes, That's a good idea. I think it does work. Steven says he wants to see what Naylor can do. Naylor is just in that 3 weeks. I'm good. Bring me back up to the active squad window. So unless they do it this week, he will still live in that limbo spot where they don't have to do a roster move. So just to let you know. We'll get to how Run CMC is looking when we get to Theme 3. But first, let's go to Theme 2. Quick hitters, and we have 3 of them today for you. The first one being Jordan Hicks.
NFC Defensive Player of the Week, David. Jordan Hicks. I just spent and doing some quick hitters, and because I just spent 50 minutes bitching about the Vikings offense, maybe it was 20 minutes, or maybe it was even longer than that. I figured I wanted to sprinkle in some love and affection for the Vikings here in the second theme, and Jordan Hicks is one guy that I want to give a shout out to, defensive and NFC Defensive Player of the Week this week, but Jordan Hicks has not just had a good week, Dave. He has had a good season so far, a very good season for the Vikings. And a bit surprising to me because last year he was not very good. At least I didn't think he was very good. I thought that the Vikings, he should have been one of their, I was hoping, I think that he would be one of the cuts, that we'd make a cut and save some cash and then give his starting job to Brian Asamoah. Or somebody else younger and better, hopefully better. Instead, Hicks took a pay cut, came back to the team. The Vikings kept him around, and boy, am I glad that they did, because he has been playing really, really well.
Best of his career.
As I was rewatching the Chicago game, I was like, every friggin' play, Hicks is either in on the tackle, in on the pile, or almost near it. Like he was around the ball all game. And we know about the scoop and score that he got. We know about the interception he had, but his counting stats don't leap off the page at you. He doesn't have any sacks. He's got 52 total tackles, 30 of them are solo. I think 1 pass defense, but he's had a knack of making big plays at big times. He had that strip. He had a fumble, recovered the fumble against the Chargers. That was a pretty big play. He made that interception of when Justin Fields got his arm hit by Hunter. He made that great over-the-shoulder catch for the interception at a key time in that game when the Bears were driving to take the lead. And then, of course, later on, Metellus gets the strip sack. Hicks picks it up like nobody's business, scoots in for the touchdown, a huge play at that point of the game. So he has been, again, if you look at his PFF grades right now, he's at 80.3. So he's probably maybe the second
very
best.
Good.
Yeah. Eye test, you'd say he's the second best defensive player the Vikings have this year, besides, other than Danielle Hunter. But the PFF grades would say he's the best defensive player we have really on the team right now. And, playing 97% of the defensive snaps. So he's on the field all the time. Like he's not being taken off at all. And there was kind of one play, he just makes smart, heady plays, Dave. And one of them I was just thinking about was in the Chiefs game, second half. I can't remember, somewhere in the third quarter, I think. Mahomes got flushed out of the pocket. And he's going to his left, and Hicks is there following him. And now Hicks couldn't go to him and try to tackle him and sack him because there was a receiver beyond Hicks that Mahomes just would have thrown the ball over Hicks's head if Hicks had gone to him. But Hicks played it really smart. He just kept stringing Mahomes along, but he was deep enough that Mahomes couldn't really. Mahomes didn't have the room to throw it over his head, but he also wasn't so deep that Mahomes could go past the line of scrimmage and get a big gain. So eventually Mahomes ran out of time. He had to throw it, and Hicks, he tipped the ball incomplete. Just a great play. It wasn't a big play in the game, but just a smart, technique-wise, everything. Hicks did everything right on that play in a situation where he was in a big bind. Right. And those are the kind of plays that he's been making all the time. And that's one of those things that also illustrates one of the big improvements in his game compared to the last year and in the past 3 or 4 years, is that in pass coverage. Last year, Hicks was a real liability in pass coverage. He often got taken off the field on passing downs, and Kendricks was the linebacker that was kept in the game. This year, that ain't happening. Hicks is in there all the time, and his pass coverage grade is an 80 this year. That's like 30 to 40 points higher than it's been the previous 4 seasons. So big improvements by Hicks in pass coverage in particular. He's always been a strong run defender, but I think that's the reason why he's been able to stay on the field more and is never coming off the field as opposed to last year when he only played about 80% of the Vikings defensive snaps. This year it's pretty much 100%, and the improvement in pass coverage is, I think, a big reason why. But big shout out to Jordan Hicks. The Vikings are going to have a decision with him in the offseason because his 2-year contract is up. He's 32 years old. What do you do? Like, if he continues to play like this, you'd have to say, well, you got to keep him. He played so good, but he's also 32. And
we know that age, Cliff, hits. We saw it last year with Kendricks.
Yeah. So Hicks been a real strong player for us, and I think a big reason, with the Vikings defense slowly improving, he's a big reason why. And if it continues to improve, he's going to be a big reason why. Another guy I want to talk about is Josh Metellus on the defensive side. We know in the offseason, Brian Flores mentioned a couple of times
where he was for Norsefius.
Brian Flores talked about. He was talking up Josh Metellus big time. Said he was going to have a big role in the new defense. But you hear that kind of stuff in the offseason about a lot of players, and sometimes it's just talk. Well, it hasn't turned out to be talk for Josh Metellus. He has been playing 86% of the defensive snaps, so essentially he is a starter on this Brian Flores defense, and he's done a really great job. I think he's a hybrid guy. He's kind of part safety, part inside linebacker, part even nickel. So real unique skill set that he has. And Flores is using him in the right way. He's got Metellus up on the line of scrimmage, nosy at the line of scrimmage a lot, threatening to blitz, doesn't always blitz. He does send him a fair bit, but he also drops him into coverage. Metellus does hurt us a little bit. Sometimes teams do pick on him on the run game a little bit, but overall, his PFF grade again, 73.9. That is very good. That's 17th out of 85 safeties they've got ranked. And again, he's got real unique skill set. He looks very comfortable covering wide receivers in space, which was something I would have never thought that he could have done 2 or 3 years ago. And he's not bad in the run game. He got his first sack last against the Bears, and he'd come close in other games as well. He's been really effective, I think, as a blitzer. He's got a couple of passes defense, 42 tackles overall. Brian Flores, he is really working out well in this aggressive blitz-heavy scheme that Brian Flores is using. And Brian Flores still doesn't have the horses to have a dominant defense yet with that style that he's using with the Vikings, but when he does, if he gets it, Josh Metellus is still going to be a big part of that defense and a very strong asset for the Vikings defense, and just really happy with how Josh Metellus is playing this year. I think he's been playing very, very well and very, very happy with him.
He's a heck of a story because we remember him when we drafted him out of Michigan, and that first year, his rookie season, he was horrible. And all he was brought in to do was supposedly catch punts. But he couldn't even do that well. And he was cut and then brought back onto the practice squad. and then he has developed. There was some light switch that clicked on about at the end of year 3, or between year 3 and 4, or whatever it was, and he has become a really good safety, and especially in the hybrid role. And I'm happy for him. It's a great story. It's wonderful, and we know that Hitman just sings his praises up and down.
And we talk about depth on the Vikings roster. The safety wise, the depth is very, very strong at safety, because Bynum's been playing very well. I think the PFF Graves also marked that out. Hitman's been kind of quiet. He had that fantastic game against Carolina, but I think he's being utilized as we expected, with Flores getting blitzed a lot, being up the line of scrimmage, the things we didn't see last year under Ed Donatel. You got Metellus, and even Theo Jackson. He hasn't been in a lot, but when he's been in there, he had an interception this year. He's trusted. So you got 4 guys there that I think you could put in there, and you could feel pretty good about them when they're in the game, which is not something you can say about a lot of positions.
Right.
The Vikings,
without a doubt. No, but at safety we are good, and as Mateo says, and welcome Mateo, Metellus making the drafting of Scene look even worse. Yes, but I put that all on Scene, not on Metellus. You want players to play smart, as Dan says, like Metellus does, and that includes Scene, and we hope Scene figures it out and has that light bulb moment as well.
True, and because Hitman ain't going to be here forever, so somebody is going to have to slide into that third safety role when Hitman is no longer a Viking. And so you got Bynum, Metellus, and then who else? Is it going to be? Maybe it'll be Lewis Scene next year. Like I said, you would hope so. But very happy with Josh Metellus, and he's as you said, Dave, a real good news story for the Vikings. 6th-round draft pick who's been playing really, really well in a new defense and a new role for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that brings us to the third quick hitter.
Yes.
The O-line.
Second one, Dave. So we got the we're looking at some other defensive.
You missed the spot where you're talking about the rest of the defense.
Yeah. Well, that's I think that I wanted to get in. I think that there's some beyond the O-line. How are we going to do this, Dave? Go O-line first, and then talk about some of this. Yeah. Well, I feel that in the Bears game, there was a few defensive personnel developments that we should keep track of. And guys that got snaps, a significant amount of snaps and playing time that hadn't been seeing it, and looking at whether this is something that we will see going forward, the Vikings. I think the first one is Khyiris Tonga. Had been inactive for 3 games, made active in the Bears game, and he played 30 snaps. So that was way up to what he was playing even in the 2 games that he was active for. Interesting. I don't know. I thought he played fine, but I don't know whether Flores felt he needed to be beefier against the Bears because they probably weren't going to pass as much. They're going to run more, or he felt that Jalen Roy just did not do enough with his playing time and didn't like what he saw and wanted to put Tonga in there. But that's something to see whether, because I thought Tonga going into the season that he was going to have a fairly significant role in this defense. It hasn't turned out that way, but maybe. Again, what Flores is seeing, maybe seeing Tonga had some good week of practices, and also Flores is not liking what he's seeing with some of the other guys that are on the defensive line and what they're doing with their playing time. So he's going to give Tonga another try. We'll see if this was just a one-game matchup type thing, or whether it's something that Tonga is going to get more playing time in the next few games to see how it all shakes out. That was one. Aaron talked about Andrew Booth Jr. He got 26 snaps against the Bears. That's in the previous 5 games, he'd had 4 total. so that's a huge development for him. He basically replaced Mekhi Blackman as the third corner in the Vikings defense against the Bears. And this came after the previous game. Mekhi Blackman had his career high in defensive snaps played with 46. So I think that was an interesting development because Booth was clearly had been behind Blackman in the depth chart since training camp, preseason and into the regular season. And then all of a sudden, in this one game, he's taking all the snaps from Blackman. Flores said this week that Booth had earned it in practice. He also, I think that Flores probably wasn't impressed with what he saw in the 46 snaps that Blackman played against the Chiefs. That's what you can infer. But again, another thing to watch for, because Booth is one of those guys. He's one of the poster childs for that bust of a 2022 draft class, Kwesi Dofamensa. So I think this is encouraging. This is good. If Booth is showing growth in his game and that Flores trusts him enough to put in there and play in an NFL regular season game, that is a good thing. I don't care who is playing in the secondary, whether you're a first rounder, second rounder, or a free agent, as long as you're playing well. And I think Booth, again, played okay. I think he had one pass breakup, a couple of tackles. He had one pass completed against him, but the Bears didn't really target him a lot. But we'll see again this week if Flores is going to play him as the third corner as opposed to Mekhi Blackman in there against the 49ers and in future games. And the third guy...
It may be a matchup thing, too, because Booth is the more man-on-corner type, bigger... can handle the bigger wide receivers, etc. Whereas Blackman is a little bit smaller than that. I do want to address Roy and what Metellus said. I want Mateo, not Metellus, Mateo, I want Roy to come out firing and click. I don't think he's clicked yet. I think he's going to be good in the future. It's just, it's that first year adjustments to the NFL. I don't think he's there yet. I want him to be, but we'll see. And for him, it may be a matchup between him and Tonga. It may be a matchup type deal, and we'll find out how Flores is viewing that as the season progresses.
And Roy was a 5th round pick too, so it's not like he's some blue chip guy. Like he was a guy that coming out, I think the book on him was he's going to take time to develop and grow into his role, but that he was a potential guy who could start along your defensive line, but just maybe not right away. So I wasn't expecting Roy to make a big impact on the Vikings defense this year as a rookie either, but happy to be proven wrong on that. The last snap count I want to mention is Brian Asamoah. He got 7 defensive snaps against the Bears, which isn't a lot, but considering that there was only a linebacker next to Jordan Hicks on 19 defensive snaps, and that was the most snaps he'd had since week 2 against Philly. I think that is also significant. He ate into the snaps that Ivan Pace has been getting. Pace only played 12, and Pace has been pretty quiet the past couple of games, maybe hitting a kind of bit of a rookie wall perhaps, but and when Asamoah was in there, Flores used him like you'd want to see him. Like Asamoah was going 100 miles an hour forward on blitzes and trying to hit gaps. He hit the wrong gaps sometimes and it didn't lead into any big plays, although he almost had a couple of tackle for losses and a sack. But you can see in what he played with that speed and that sideline and the motor that he has and the quickness that he has, that he could be an interesting weapon to use in there. And again, another guy that we'll see if was it a matchup thing or was it he's getting better and Flores wants to reward him for that and he feels that Pace is slipping a little bit. So we'll see in the 49ers game if Asamoah gets a bit more play and what he does with that. But again, another one of those 2022 draft picks, the bust class, if he can start coming on and being better, that's again is a good thing for the Vikings defense. You never know when somebody's going to get injured. You never know when somebody's going to suddenly be ineffective. And hey, the more good players you get, the better. So good to see that it'll be a positive development that Asamoah is again growing and getting better in his game after a tough start to his second year.
Yep, especially when they're cheap.
Yes. And now the offensive line. Your favorite, Dave, but wanted to talk about the offensive line, the Vikings offensive line and their grades, which are very, very good according to Pro Football Focus. Check out these
just PFF. They are
That's right.
SIS and what's the other one? The other big one.
ESPN's got them. There's
ESPN has them up there.
But PFF. Check out these grades, folks, for the Vikings starting 5 offensive linemen. Christian Darrisaw, number 1 rated tackle in the NFL, according to PFF. Ezra Cleveland, 9th highest graded guard that they're grading in the NFL with 100, an offensive line with at least 100 snaps. Garrett Bradbury. Yep. Yeah, out of 80. Garrett Bradbury, 2nd out of 39 centers that they've got graded.
He's never been that high before. Never.
Even Ed Ingram, the much maligned Ed Ingram, 22nd out of 80 guards. That's not bad. And then Brian O'Neill, 6th ranked tackle in the NFL. So you got the 1st ranked tackle, the 6th ranked tackle, the 2nd ranked center, the 9th best ranked guard, and even the 22nd ranked other guard. Like, Dave, Viking fans, myself, we have been crying for these kind of grades from offensive linemen for a decade. And here we're getting them. Even like you talked about other metrics, ESPN metrics, their pass and run block win rate. They have the Vikings 6th in pass block win rate and 12th in run block win rate. So again, that's very good. So those grades sound good. I guess the question is, shouldn't our offense be better? If your offensive line, if the crux, if the games are won, football games are won in the trenches, how come our offense isn't better when our offensive line apparently is playing so good? That's the question I have. Maybe that's the run game. Yes, it's true. Maybe this is maybe this is a situation where Alexander Mattison is the problem in the running game. If our offensive line is blocking well, but we can't get explosive runs and positive runs most of the time with Mattison as the running back, maybe he is the problem. And I don't know. It's just a strange thing. It's great to hear, but it's a very Vikings, I think, issue where, again, one of the football, I think the foundational truisms you hear about football is, again, it's won in the trenches, and you need a good offensive line to have a good offense. And this year, the Vikings apparently have a very good offensive line, and their offense is mediocre. That's just so typical Vikings thing. But Dave, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on, what you make of all of this.
Like I said, we've enjoyed a good offensive line. Now, there's been moments when this good offensive line, each one of them has done something stupid and given up a sack or whatever, and that goes across the board. Now, I can't think of one on Darrisaw. I can think of one where he got a poorish block, but we've seen Ezra be a turnstile at times. We've seen Bradbury mess up at times. We've obviously seen Ed mess up at times, and even seen O'Neill mess up at times. The grades are the same no matter, even though there's an O-line crisis amongst the league. The grades are, PFF generates them, watches them the same way they don't look team specific. They're not getting paid off by the Eagles going, hey, here, juice our grades for an extra $2,000 this week. They're not doing that. At least I hope they're not. They're doing better, and you can see it. I can see it on the field because I sort of know what I'm looking at, and the fact that I played the position, I know what I like seeing. Now, I prefer a power game, but we don't have that. But even in the zones, they're getting their heads in the right spots. O-line can be real simple in the fact that not only you're beating your guy and you're strong and you're, defending heads, but you're putting your hat on the right side, the correct side of where it's supposed to go. And as taught as a defender is that when you get blocked by an offensive lineman, the ball's going to where he puts his head. So if his head's on, up on this side of me, I've got to go through his head. If I go through his head, you're getting to where the ball is. Well, these guys are putting their heads in the right spots. They're doing it correctly. And the only way to beat them is to go through them. And they're not making people go through them. They're doing their job, which is, I think fantastic. And Rap, I very much want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that super chat. Appreciate it very much. We all do here at Vikings First and SKOL. And you rock, brother. You rock. Now, what it points out to me is that we've got deficiencies elsewhere that are causing the issues, that it's not the offensive line because they're doing well. And then when you start looking at to where the deficiencies are, Kirk Cousins is making his passes. Now, would you like him to be more pocket aware? Oh, hell yes, you would, without a doubt, and be able to sidestep left, right, whatever. He doesn't have to scramble out. He rarely does that, and he's not known for that ability. I mean, he's done it before and done well, but he needs to be able to move side by side to optimize them even more. And so I don't think it's Kirk Cousins in the fact that he has time to throw the ball. He has time to hand off the ball. All that's going relatively smoothly, with the exception of a couple hiccups, i.e., stripping the ball when you're pulling, which is a fluke issue, or stepping on his feet or whatever it is, right?
Hasn't happened yet this year.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Live on Monday night, you can guarantee.
Live on Monday night.
They brought it up.
So then it comes down, are the receivers the issue? Well, the receivers are good. However, they're having way too many drops, more than we like. Surprisingly, TJ Hawkinson is tied for the league for tight ends and catches. Most people don't know that, but he is. But he also leads the league for tight end drops. And those drops are absolutely infuriating. Because, yes, they're hard balls to catch. And I've had excuses for him when hand flashes across his eyes and stuff like that. Those are hard to catch. And they've been max where he's reaching out of his frame to get him. They've been really difficult catches. But we saw him catch them last year, and especially after his payday, and he's not catching them this year. And part of that is I don't think he's in sync because he had contractitis during all of training camp. So that plays a part. Jordan Addison, new rookie. You're not expecting superstardom from him. At least you shouldn't. He's shown signs, but he's also dropped a couple balls. KJ Osborne, I have no idea why he's not catching more this season than he has in the past. Now, granted, some of them are bad throws. You throw behind him, he's not going to, he sort of ducked and did whatever. That uncatchable pass, that's a timing pass. That's a Kirk Cousins KJ deal. The timing's off on that one. There are examples where the wide receivers could do better, but it's not primarily on them because we've generated some good pass numbers during some of the games this year, right? Last week was bad. I mean, there's been a few games where they're just horrible. Kirk's worse. And it's not just Kirk on those. It's also the wide receivers causing Kirk's worse. Kirk gets most of the blame, but it's not just him. But it comes down to how well are we running the football? How well are those plays called? How well is the back cutting? And it's pointing to me more and more, I like Alexander Madison. I do. Honest, I do. But I think he's a north-south runner and does not fit as well in this current scheme. He did well in wide zone. He did well under Zimmer. There, every time he played in as the starter, he got over 100 yards. But in this time under Kevin O'Connell, he's not. And I don't know if they're asking him to do something different or he just doesn't have the ability. That's why I want to see Akers, and Madison can come in relief. And then Madison is the number 2 guy. And the easiest way to tell him, yes, I told you were going to be the starter. You were the starter. But we're trying something else because we are not as productive as we need to be. And if Akers beats you out in practice, I'm putting Akers on the field as RB1 and then see where we go from there. Because I think that's about the only way you can fix it. Because everything we want is going well on the offensive line for the most part, and then it falls off in another area. You know, it's like you fix this leak in the boat, and another one springs. So you go fix that one, and another one springs. And then you go fix the other one, and then 3 more come up. And you're going like, what the hell? And you're constantly fighting it. But I'm happy the O-line's this way. They're young. Everybody's on their first contract, except for Brian O'Neill. And he got his second contract, and he's lined up. We were worried about his torn Achilles. He looks great this year, right?
Yeah.
We know Darrisaw is going to get bank when he goes because number 1 tackle in the NFL, and you play left tackle. He's getting $30 million a year. It's going to be large. Just brace yourself. And you wouldn't want it any other way. And when Judd floated the theory about what if people are calling and asking for Christian Darrisaw, they're not going to get rid of him, just like they're not going to get rid of Justin Jefferson. Those are 2 key cornerstones to your offense. You don't get rid of those. You keep them. When was the last time we had if you want to call it, a franchise left tackle? Yeri?
Well, did
Matt
Gary
Khalil,
Zimmerman
we hoped would, but he went to shit after his
Zimmerman,
first season.
right tackle or left tackle? I've
Left.
always heard. Yeah. So Tim Irwin was on the right back in the 80s. Gary Zimmerman was on the left. I would say he was the last.
Yeah,
Zimmerman. Zimmerman would have been the last like elite tackle that we had at left tackle.
You keep those. They don't grow on trees, and they don't come around except for once every 30 years. So you keep them. So Judd was a little off. I appreciate Judd's thinking. Yes, will you get a big value for it? Oh, you should. Should be a Herschel Walker type. Same with JJ. But is it worth it? I don't think so.
But you can't trade away every young guy just because he's about to get paid, right?
Right.
And because the guys that you get trading, you know, like if you get a young vet as part of the trade or the draft picks, there's certainly no guarantee that whoever you draft is going to be as good or better than the guy that you just traded away. Lock up the guy that's a known quantity.
And especially when they're that rare. Yeah. Especially when they're that rare. JJ and Darrisaw are that rare. So it makes sense that you lock those 2 up. No matter what. Period.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to theme 3.
Aaron says the Horns are driving him to drink. It was 7-0 to them the last I checked. I don't know what the score is now.
I don't know, but they're obviously playing.
Yeah. Oh, they're playing.
The Monday night game, Vikings hosting the San Francisco 49ers, who are probably the best all-round team in the NFL right now.
They would get my vote. Dave, run the slides. Got to start with the slides.
Yep. We're going to start with the injury report. This was taken from yesterday afternoon when it came out. There's only been one update that I've seen so far. When it comes to your Minnesota Vikings, Ezra Cleveland did not practice yesterday. It was announced. I saw a tweet by Alec Lewis of The Athletic that Kevin O'Connell says Ezra will be out on this weekend, Monday night, and the Dalton Reisner era begins in full as your left guard starting. Cornerback Caleb Evans was limited practice. Edge rusher Patrick Jones was limited practice. And we have wide receiver Jalen Naylor up there as limited practice. I've got this special caret symbol on there because he's in the window and he's officially not active yet until they say he's active and do the appropriate roster moves. But he is getting there. And being limited practice on the first week of your open window is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the 49ers. We have, as of yesterday, Christian McCaffrey had not practiced all week. Deebo Samuels did not practice last week, and I see that Justin says Deebo has already been ruled out. That is freaking awesome. He also mentions the next guy, the best tackle in football, Mr. Trent Williams, not by grade, but by his career. He is doubtful. And if you remember, doubtful is about a 75% no play. Questionable is 50-50. Then we get to left guard Aaron Banks, limited practice. Left linebacker Dre Greenlaw, limited practice, who you've been watching. Justin says CMC is going to be listed as questionable. And cornerback George Odom as limited practice. All of those guys, except for Odom, are starters, primary starters. So, hey, the whole left side of the offensive line for the Niners is out. I'm all for that. I'll take two. Then we get to next in the series. As we normally say, the games generally go, and I would say this is probably over 90% correct, by strength of quarterback. The better quarterback generally wins the game. Well, in this case, Kirk Cousins in his power ranking is now 13th. He's dropped. He was 10th last week. He's now 13th, thanks to his lousy game last week against the Chicago Bears. Brock Purdy took his place and is now in 10th. Brock Purdy, who you think does nothing really spectacular, but he does everything excessively well. So
yeah,
he is up to 10. And what a find for San Francisco he was.
Last pick of the draft.
After you whiff on giving up 3 first rounds for a quarterback that you thought could be your future. Yep.
Get gifted into that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the O versus the D, we have the Vikings offense. Believe it or not, PFF has them going up to 6th overall. Okay, PFF. I don't know what you're smoking, but I'll take it. Then comes DVOA. DVOA has us dropping to 15th, 16th in the pass, which is a drop, and 24th in the run. We get to Elias Sports Bureau numbers, which are the ones you see on ESPN, NFL.com, CBS, all across there, your box score numbers. Elias Sports Bureau is the official stat counter for the NFL and many other major sports. They have us 12th in yards. We're dropping. 3rd in passing. 30th in rushing. 18th in points. We went up a little bit in points. I don't know how we haven't scored that much. We have taken 15 sacks. We have given the ball away. We rank 32nd. That's because we can't rank 33rd. We've given away the ball 13 times on offense, and we have a -7 differential, which actually moved up thanks to our defense. When we get over to the 49ers defense, where this offense is going to face, and this, folks, I'm telling you right now, the biggest challenge of this game will be our offense against their defense. 49ers defense power ranking by PFF is numero uno, best defense in the league. DVOA has them 5th overall, 2nd against the pass, and 22nd against the run. So that tells you, hey, maybe you might try to run the ball more effectively. You might be successful, but we'll see. Elias Sports Bureau has them 3rd in yards total, 10th in passing, 5th in rushing, means they can rush the ball and run CMC as part of that. 1st in points, which should tell you with all the other stats a little bit lower, means they are efficient and they score. Unlike your Minnesota Vikings, who are very inefficient and have not put those points on the board during drives. They rank 19th in sacks. They have a grand total of 15 sacks so far this season. And they have ranked 7th in takeaways with 11. So it's a pretty fair matchup. The Vikings are underdogs by a full touchdown as of this morning, and the over-under is 44 even. So if you are a wagering person and you're betting the over-under, be advised, 44 even. Any even number means you can have a push. And if you have a push, you lose. All right. Flipping the script, we have the defense against the offense. The Vikings defense is currently 19th, moving up in power rankings for PFF. They are on DVOA 15th overall. Middle league, mediocre. That's what we wanted. That was the goal at the beginning of the season.
Dave.
They are 15th in yards, or 15th overall, 15th in the pass, and 16th in the run. Dead center. And they're improving. So hope that keeps inching its way up. Elias Sports Bureau were 15th in yards, which is an improvement over last week. 17th against the pass. 18th in rushing. 21st in points. We want that number to be better, our defense to improve that way. We are 10th in sacks with 18, and we are 21st with 6 takeaways. We had 3 of them last week. That's how that improved. Now looking at the Niners offense. PFF has them overall as 10th because that's where there's a little bit of difference. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Norsefius, my friend, for your $5 super chat. And do I offer artwork? I have in the past. My stuff generally is not cheap, just to let you know.
Dave Stefano original is pricey.
Yeah. Because I get it gallery quality prints. I go to very expensive print shops because I believe I want my stuff to last. But I do, and I should go cheaper prints. They would have to contact me either via Twitter or Facebook. You can find me either way and PM me, and we'll do it. We might actually do it if I get a little bit of gumption up to do some prints to sell or give away as being a member of Vikings First in the SKOL on our YouTube page. That would be very nice. And I do want to get some t-shirts printed up with some of our logos and other stuff. And that may be a future thing, Norsefius, and keep on me for that because I just may do that. Now, the offense for the 49ers, PFF, power ranking of 14th. Overall, DVOA has them second. See, there's a huge difference there, but okay. First in pass. There's a difference between what you thought before. Third on the run game. Hey, one of the reasons DVOA does that is because they look at efficiency quite as well, and they are efficient. Elias Sports Bureau has them 6th in yards, 13th in passing, 3rd in rushing, and 2nd in points for generating points. That's why they are the most overall well-rounded team in the NFL. They've taken 11 sacks. They've given away the ball only. They're ranked 2nd, and they've only given it away 3 times. Just 3 in 6 games. So that's 1 every 2 games. Compare that to us.
Let's not.
They are sitting at a +8 differential on the season. They have 8 more takeaways than giveaways. So they're good. It's a good team. It is literally the best we'll have played all season. Aaron says he's all purpled up, custom-made purple curtains, 82-inch TV, and he sees the beer now. Aaron sounds sweet. Biggest TV in my house, 75, and it's not generally the one I watch. But that sounds sweet. One day, my friend, one day. And that brings us to the final spot, the special teams. The Vikings have dropped to 23rd overall per DVOA. And this is not just kicking, punting. It's the whole kickoff team, kick receiving, punt team, punt receiving, etc. They've dropped 23rd, even with the sneak. And whereas special teams on the Niners are ranked 20th. So they're pretty much evenly matched. We'll see how that goes. Biggest worry so far could be this man.
Well, I think, Dave, the most important slide you put up there was the injury one for this game. And I think it's the 49ers and the Vikings. You've seen the stats. They outrank us in just about every category. And depending on you're looking at DVOA, Elias, PFF. They've got us beat in all those areas. So I think that the real important thing, the way that the Vikings have a chance to win this one, those 3-4 guys that are hurting, if they can't play, and now we know that I guess Samuel is not playing, Trent Williams likely won't play. That's a huge help for the Vikings. So it's like Greenlaw will play, but the guy that would really help the Vikings immensely, their chances of winning if he doesn't play, is Christian McCaffrey, run CMC. Samuel's really good. I love him as a player. But McCaffrey, I was reading a story earlier week on ESPN where they talked about how when the 49ers acquired McCaffrey last year, before that, their offense was really struggling. There wasn't an explosive offense, even with Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and having Samuel there. McCaffrey got there, and they took their offense to a whole nother level. That, and also when Garoppolo had his season-ending injury and they got Purdy in there, and Purdy was an upgrade, that also took him. But McCaffrey is the guy that he really makes his offensive run. Impossible matchup out of the backfield. Linebackers, safeties can't cover him. He's equally as deadly there as he is running the ball. And so if he is out of the game, that in itself could give the Vikings could give the Vikings defense a big leg up. The Vikings defense is improving, like I said. They've gradually gotten better over the past 6 games, but overall, like, if McCaffrey is in the game, it's just he's a matchup that the Vikings don't have an antidote to him. Nobody in the league has had an antidote to him right now, and so if he's playing and he's able to play the whole game, it's going to be a long, long night for the Vikings, I think. And even with Samuel out, if you got McCaffrey in there, Kittle, Ayuk, and even Juwan Jennings at time, every game the guy makes 1 or 2 big catches, and you're like, where the hell did he come from, right? Those are too many weapons. The Vikings don't have enough guys to match up on those. Brandon Ayuk's averaging almost over 18 yards a catch this year. Like, he's going gangbusters. So if McCaffrey can play along with Ayuk and Kittle playing and Juwan Jennings, even with Samuel out, I don't think that the defense is improved as it is, that we have the horses to stop San Francisco enough to keep this game close. Because on the other end, we'll see how much of a difference that makes with Williams if he can't play both in the run game and the pass game. The rest of the 49ers offensive line, if you look at, again, PFF ratings and that sort of thing, is pretty average or below average. Williams is not, but if he's not playing, that's a much help. But really, I think Christian McCaffrey is the guy. Christian McCaffrey is the guy who we have to not have playing Monday night for the Vikings to have a chance to win this one. And it looks like, with him being questionable, 50%, so that's 50, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. I think he's going to play. How long he lasts, though, is another question. He could take a bleak injury, take another hit or two. Maybe he's out of the game. That would be really, really great for the Vikings. It would really help them immensely in pulling off the upset here. But almost at full strength with McCaffrey in the game, I don't really see how the Vikings defensively can stop San Francisco enough to make a game out of this. And I think that by the second half, midway through the third quarter, this game probably gets away from the Vikings, and it's a 2-touchdown loss for them if McCaffrey's able to play a whole game. And is that the kind of is playing at the level that he plays when he's relatively healthy. And it'd be one thing if we had an offense that was really explosive and was operating really well, but that is not happening right now. And so, and then you're going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like the 49ers have very great players on a lot of levels. You got Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, Greenlaw. In the secondary, you got Jardavius Ward, and even that Hufanga, the safety. I really like him. So they are a team that they make gaining yards. Moving the ball on the San Francisco 49ers defense is not a good time, Dave. They make every yard tough on you. You know, they put a lot of pressure on you. They can get after it. Nick Bosa is a guy that he just, not only is he phenomenally talented, strong as a bull, but he never takes a play off either. Like you've got to be on him 100% all the time until the whistle blows, or else he's going to make you look silly. And again, like without Justin, even with Justin Jefferson, it'd be tough for the Vikings offense to churn off enough positive gains, get enough first downs to score points. Without Justin Jefferson, and especially what we saw against the Bears, I don't know. I'd be shocked if the Vikings offense scored 2 touchdowns on these guys just by themselves. They'll have to play the best game they've ever played.
They have it within them. They just have to get.
But we've not seen that ability in the first 6 games. So how is it going to suddenly come out against the 49ers? I think if for the Vikings to have a chance to pull off the upset, again, McCaffrey, even with McCaffrey out of the game, I think a few things you'd have to have happen. One, Kenny Nwangwu is back. He'll probably be returning kickoffs. He's got to take one to the house, Dave, or have a couple of returns that are long returns that give the Vikings a very, very short field so they can get points without having to do a whole hell of a lot. I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity, though. They got a new rookie kicker. If Robbie Gould was the 49ers kicker, even inside, I'd say Kenny Nwangwu is going to have a couple of opportunities to get big returns. But Moody is the rookie, got a bigger leg, and they're indoors, so the elements won't be an issue. I don't know if Nwangwu's going to get a chance to even return one kick. But if he does, or gets a couple of chances, he's got to take one to the house.
And we haven't seen him since the injury, so this is going to be interesting.
I think the other thing is, other than the personnel things we mentioned about starting Cam Akers instead of Alexander Madison, the more using more play action. I think if you're KOC, hey man, get that trick play or trick plays. I hope you are working on 1 or 2, really drilling it during this week, and then you save it, set it up, and then use it like the Lions used a few weeks ago, where they had that reverse, and then they had threw it to Laporta, who was wide open for a touchdown. Have a trick play that the 49ers are not expecting, and you catch them napping, and you get a big explosive play that goes for a touchdown or, again, for a long, long gain that, again, makes it easier on your offense. You need one of those. Surprise. Same thing with Matt Daniels on special teams. We've run one fake punt this year. I'd be working on another one again. Fine. Pick the right time to do it. Have Ryan Wright throw a pass to Jalen Naylor or whoever is out there, something, again, that catches the 49ers napping, gets you an extra drive, an extra explosive play, get you some easy points. That's a few things that I think got to happen. And the Vikings, again, they can't turn the ball over this week. Not even one. One is too many against the 49ers. And I think they've got to at least, and Mateo was talking about it below, I think they've got to create at least 2 defense turnovers themselves, at least 2 in this game, and preferably in the 49ers territory. So again, the offense gets the ball deep in the 49ers territory and gets some free, easy points without having to do a whole hell of a lot. I think those are some of the things that have to go right, that the Vikings have to do to pull off the upset. And that's a lot of things that are unlikely to happen, that have to happen for the Vikings to win. But, that's how I'm seeing it. I think if you go mano on mano, play after play, and each team plays the way they have, there's no way the Vikings win this game. But hey, I don't know, like every year, Dave, I say, it'd be good if I'm really looking for that game or those games where the Vikings win when you don't expect them to win, where they punch above their weight. And this is one of those times where it has to happen for the season to turn itself around. We didn't see a lot of that under Zimmer in the last few years. Last year, finally, with Kevin O'Connell, we did see it against that Buffalo game. I thought there was no way we'd beat Buffalo in Buffalo. We did it. We punched above our weight in that one. We played a very good, solid road game against a very good team. Yes, Ted, that's going to be something to watch and very important. I think Darisaw can handle that. He's handled everybody else, but it'll be his biggest challenge. But the Vikings have to. This is a game where, hey, surprise us. Win when we don't expect it. Play your best game when you need it the most. That's what we need to see Monday night against the 49ers. Anything less than the best effort we've had all season is going to result in another loss for the Vikings, and they're going to go 0-4 at home, and it's going to put their playoff chances even deeper in the hole than they already are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And it'll crank up the talk about sell the assets.
Yes, which of course, after the win, even as poor as it was, died down quite a bit this week. There were even reports that Hunter, the Vikings aren't looking to get rid of Hunter. They've gotten inquiries, but they're not actively shopping him and that sort of thing.
Well, I don't think there's reports. The front office has been open for business. They're fielding calls. I think they're, as I said earlier, prepping the battlefield. They're saying, all right, you're interested in Danielle Hunter, or what you willing to offer? And they go on from there. And they even Quasi could say a minimum cost will be a first. Second, at worst, but we want a first. So, and he's going to always say it's high, but a first, and then that's where it makes, when it comes to Hunter, Jacksonville so appealing, because they don't have a second and a third. They would have to give away a first. But we're not there yet. But he's sitting there taking phone calls. Jacksonville's interested. Buffalo's interested, and he's making a list. Checking it twice, see how it goes. And I'm sure one of them might be for Kirk Cousins. And there's probably plenty of, how would you think of trading Darisaw? Click, laugh. No. Thanks for playing. Anybody else you interested in?
Yeah.
But we'll see. If they pull out this win, if Kevin O'Connell pulls it out of his posterior and the Vikings play their best game yet, who was saying it was Justin, this would be probably the turning point game, because they go, hey, we beat the best team in the NFC, and without a doubt, San Francisco is. No offense to Eagles fans, but San Francisco is better. And no offense to Detroit fans, your history. So it would be San Francisco. If they pull this out, attitudes are going to swing, and swing big, because, oh my God, we beat San Francisco. Now let's go beat Green Bay, because if you go beat San Francisco and then lose to the shitty Packers, you don't want to do that. Aaron, you're putting money on the game on the Vikings winning? Okay, buddy. What are you drinking?
Sure the odds are favorable on that
one. I'd like to know. But, hey, if we play our best game, relatively mistake-free, don't turn over the ball, get turnovers on defense, play aggressive on defense, there's a chance. On any given Sunday, there's always a chance.
The Grandizer did mention about the whole, the 49ers lost to the Browns last week. And the Vikings have a chance. And they lost to the Browns with P.J. Walker as the quarterback.
Yeah, but the Browns have the best defense in the league.
Yeah, then that's the thing. Like the thing is that the Browns have the best defense in the league right now. As good as the 49ers are, the Browns are probably better, or at least at the same level. And the Vikings, although an improving defense, they are not at the Browns level. I don't think they have the ability to keep the 49ers down the way the Browns are able to do. And the Browns did that. But again, remember, Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, both went out relatively early in those games. So the 49ers did not have them later on in the game. And when they did have them, they were up 10-0. So if McCaffrey's playing that and he plays the whole game and he's pretty close to 100% and he's playing like he normally plays against this Vikings defense, with the fact that they still got Brandon Ayuk, they still got George Kittle to use, still got Jennings to use. I think it's a different animal than what happened last week against Cleveland. But there's always a chance in the NFL. But I'm not really feeling very optimistic.
Now, the question is, the Vikings so far this year has come in within the spread.
Yeah.
The spread is a full touchdown. Do the Vikings keep it within the spread?
Every game they played this year, this season has been close. So why wouldn't another one be? Even though they're playing the best team in the NFL, that's what you'd think.
And
just the
teams that they last
play.
year, so for the most part.
Yeah, but I think that this is not going to be a close game, that the 49ers are going to take us to the woodshed a bit with a 10 points or more victory eventually. And that's how I'm feeling about it. Unless McCaffrey's out, and then even then I'm not convinced that our defense can do enough to rattle Purdy and keep Ayuk and Kittle down, even if they're improved. Along with the defense that we got to face and what they can do and the turnovers that they can create when we've been turnover prone all season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of things that don't really feel right to me matchup wise. Even with the 49ers hurting a bit, that indicates to me that this will be the first game that isn't close that the Vikings play, and it's not going to be close and it won't be in our favor either.
Last year we had 2 blowout games.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could happen again this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. Justin put up that the Gophers are 12, Hawkeyes 10 with 8:33. That's a higher score games than I thought it would be there, Justin. Talking about taking football back a few years, that is one of them. But as Northvia says, go Gophers. However, watch the tight ends on Iowa because they produce a shit ton of them.
They sure do. And offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm. So, we got a great defense, 49ers defense. Hold my beer, said the Browns. Yes, you got that right, Grandizer. Yes, Ted, rather than make the playoffs than not, can't imagine cheering on another team during postseason. I don't.
And that is the Wolves.
Yeah.
That is the Wolves. That is their marching orders for Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell. I think is that. That's why I don't even know if we'd be sellers even if we lose Monday night, because Wolves just ain't into that tanking thing and selling off all assets.
Yeah, and it's entertaining. And Ted, we've been there before. It's rare that we haven't made it in the playoffs, but we just enjoy the games and root against our enemies. That's the Vikings way. Like I said at the beginning of the week, or at the show, if you're having a rough week, a vet that's having a rough week because of what's happening in the world, give me a call. We can talk it out, drink a couple beers, bullshit a while. Things will be better. Unless it's Ted. Ted can go cry in his sour whatever he drinks. He's
It'll be a lager.
But it's just, Ted was a pampered pilot for a long time. He doesn't need it. So, with that, any last words?
I have talked a lot. Even as pessimistic as I have been in this show about the Vikings' chances against the 49ers, still looking forward to watching the game and the Vikings surprising me in a good way.
Let's all hope. Now, don't forget, because it's Monday night, Vikings First and SKOL. I love you too, Ted. Vikings First and SKOL we'll have the Real Forno show at 6 p.m. on Monday, live here on the Vikings First and SKOL channel. And it will be a special one because Justin Day of Purple and Gold for Days and our partner in podcasts will join the show as well. And also, any member that wants to, that belongs to the Vikings First and SKOL YouTube page, can join us on the show as we talk in the run-up, where we're combining Justin's pregame show and Tyler's Real Forno show right before the game. Then we get to kickoff. What happens at kickoff? Yes, Ted Pat Hawkinson will be live. Then we get to kickoff, and Justin takes over. Justin, over on his channel, Purple and Gold for Days, is going to have a watch party. So join him in watching the game. I will be. I'll have him on my computer and a game on the TV. And we'll be watching and yelling at stupid plays across the way or cheering on fantastic ones. Like, man, did you see Addison catch that? Stuff like that, for an example.
Hopefully he does that about 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Kevin O'Connell, let's do that. With that, join us again on Vikings First and SKOL as we go live at the final 2-minute warning. We get there, we'll go live. Everybody will join us on that one as we watch the last 2 minutes together. And we have fun. We'll comment. We'll react with you. And we'll see how it goes from there. And then after, over 5 hours, Justin may get a break before he has to do another post game. So it's going to be fun. You got to bring it up for all of us. And Justin, it's going to be a good day. But that's what we've got coming up, folks. That's what we got coming up. What are you watching tomorrow, Darren?
I'm usually tracking the other NFC North teams, and just not so much the Bears because they're 1-5, and I'm not too. Thanks, Ted. Have a good day. Not so much the Bears, but certainly I'm always enjoying watching the Packers lose, and now I'm going to be hoping that it seems we're in an alternate universe here, but hoping that the Lions lose because they're actually good this year.
And that's really going to be a good game. They play the Ravens. That's going to be a real good game. The Packers, yes, I hope they lose against Denver because Denver stinks. Oh, they're bad. We'll find out. I'll usually generally watch the Red Zone channel, but we'll see how that goes.
I just I've got the streaming too, so I'm checking how the games are going, and if there's a close one that as two teams that I'm interested, I'll just switch to that game and watch for a while.
Yep, but it's going to be a relaxing Sunday because the Vikings aren't playing.
They aren't playing.
I have one last announcement tonight at 8:00, and I don't have it up. Over on Niners Sickness podcast. I gotta go. I will be joining him, Beto. I will be joining Beto live at 8:00 Central for the Niners Now podcast as we go live on his channel. We're going to try to get it hopefully simulcast to ours, but I don't think I'm going to get that set up in time. But on his channel, we're going to talk Niners, Vikings, and we'll go from there. And everybody here, or a lot of people in the chat, know Beto. He's come on our show quite a few times. He's a good man who happens to root for the San Francisco 49ers, and they whine they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time, and they're whining about it. And I shed all sorts of big crocodile tears for him, and I will do again so tonight. So if you want some fun as we rib each other, That'll be 8 o'clock Central on the Niners Now podcast. So join us. With that, last words, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. And SKOL Vikings, baby.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!